Alright, Trial Mob, so it looks like I'm playing a little bit of a game of catch-up, but as you guys know, that just means I'm going to have plenty of content coming your guys' way as long as I find the time for it. And as you guys know, this episode is specifically about the Joy Toy Warhammer 40k stuff. And as you know, Joy Toy has been going absolutely hard with this IP, bringing out just stuff that I never would have guessed we were going to get, but the fact that we are getting it is absolutely awesome. So let me give you a few more details on some of the things that we've gotten so far and go ahead and break it down for you guys, alright? Let's get it. Alright, so starting off with the Primaris Librarian, we are getting a few extra photos here of basically the final product. This looks phenomenal. I really didn't expect them to go this far out. But I mean, they've been doing a great job of just making sure that everything looks very, very accurate to the source material, and this looks exactly like the miniature. I could have asked for anything more. Basically every single thing that you would want on there is on there, from the cape to the straps to the tunic on the underground. So it looks really good, and I do believe one of the hands actually lights up just like the figure, since he is supposed to be sort of like a caster. So that's something that's really cool. And then the sword itself, I believe, is supposed to look like that, but I think that it's supposed to be powering up, right? Almost like a lightsaber. So I would have liked to have seen potentially a second blade without it, but that, again, really badass. Now, something that I do want to note, and again, here you can see that hand that I mentioned that is basically lighting up, so great feature right there. But the one thing that I will say is that Joy Toy does not really, they don't use soft goods, at least none that I've seen that I've ever purchased. So this, while it does look really nice, is going to have a little bit of limited articulation. I haven't seen any poses with this where you could get him in a, let's say, kneeling position, which you probably don't need to, but it doesn't look like that leg is going to be able to kick out much more than you're seeing here, which I guess is fine. I guess it's not a big issue, but it is something to note that articulation for this piece is definitely going to be hindered, but I guess you don't need the same amount of articulation that you need everywhere else, but it is something to note for the figure. Now, on top of the fact that we do end up getting an unhelmeted head, which looks, again, very accurate to the depiction that we get in the model, we're also going to be getting a helmeted head, and I really like the fact that Joy Toy is going in this direction, which really they should be. Giving us unhelmeted heads with the helmeted heads, I think, is definitely something that they should be striving for. But even more importantly, the way that they've decided to execute it, they haven't gone the Star Wars Black Series way, where they put basically a helmet on top of another helmet, a helmet on top of a head. They're just giving you two separate heads, and I think that's probably the right way to go. Obviously, this is going to allow for a certain amount of mixing and matching in the future with your action figures and how you decide to pose these guys. So again, that level of modularity is going to be awesome as it proliferates through the line, and as we get, you know, other races and such things added to this, the Joy Toy stuff. And then now here we have basically the back end, and you can see, again, just a lot of the details that they put on this. I mean, it's this kind of stuff right here that makes Joy Toy, even if they're not perfect, which they're not, but this is what really makes them the benchmark. There's just absolutely no, how do I say this? They don't spare any detail, and when it comes to these kinds of figures, especially for the price point, that's exactly what you want from a company. Now, switching over to another unit, here we have the Invictus Warsuit. Now, I had no idea that they were going to be doing this. I know I mentioned it before, but man, this looks badass, and it's huge. I mean, if you've already seen, or if you had one of these in your hand, some of the Joy Toy stuff that we already have out, you know that this is not a small figure. This is ginormous. So this is going to be a really nice centerpiece if you have the space for it. If you're, you know, a Warhammer 40k fan, this is a badass figure, and it's really cool that obviously you can put one of the Space Marines in the chest like that in the cockpit. I didn't really think that they were going to pull that off, but I mean, here we are, and again, these are very, very accurate to scale, at least to each other. Now, as per usual, Joy Toy isn't messing with, you know, they're not messing around. They're making this really, again, accurate to the detail. I mean, this looks exactly like the miniature itself. You know, all the basically all the moving parts look pretty realistic. Basically, the fact that this looks as good as it does considering the IP that they're going after. I mean, they're doing this whole line more justice than I think anyone could have ever have imagined ahead of time. And something that's cool too, which I don't have any photos of currently, I'll have to get those for you next time. But the actual Space Marine that he comes with is a different Space Marine. He has a different chest. Basically, he is the pilot, but I'll have to give you guys photos of that on the next episode. Here we get a shot of the back, and as you can tell, I mean, a lot of detail here, a lot of mechanical workings here that definitely work to make it look very real. And to be honest, I don't know how it's going to look like once we see the actual final product. It might not look as cleanly painted as this. I know a lot of you have seen the Joy Toy tends to do that, but it almost looks die cast, and I appreciate that, because even if it's not die cast, the fact that it looks that way just makes it look that much more real when you know have these things posed, when you have them set up in your Detolf shelf, wherever you're going to have them. This is going to be a centerpiece that people are going to have to look at when they walk in. It's just too badass. Now, last thing I'm going to say is that a lot of people were mentioning that they're hoping that Joy Toy is going to do the Dreadnought figure, and I'm here to tell you guys that most likely that is not going to happen. They'll be focusing basically on Primaris stuff only. Now, going back over to the Primaris Space Marines, here we have them all in all their glory, and I love what we're getting here. Again, bulkier armor, the nice gold all around, the big shoulder pauldrons on both pauldrons, or should I say both shoulders. And then of course this one's one of the sergeants, so he has the red helmet, and then is that a seal or a sigil on his right pauldron? Regardless, the fact that he has all these details is awesome. I mean, you can tell the other guys look just as badass as this one, so this is definitely kudos to Joy Toy for giving us these kinds of figures. Now, when I did see this photo right here, for a second I thought, what the hell, we're getting just a plain figure? That's not Joy Toy. But if you look around the waist, you can actually see that he comes with a couple pouches. So listen, these guys don't have to have a shit ton of stuff on them, but a couple pouches, a couple things that make them look actually real and not plain like the stuff that we got from Bandai. Which I do like what I got from Bandai, but it doesn't compare to this. So again, it's really nice to see these nice large figures with these big fucking guns, and still extra little things about them that really bring them to life. And of course, the big update here is going to be the fact that these guys are actually going to come with multiple helmets. So we are going to get a completely unhelmeted helmets, or heads, should I say, which is really nice. And then on top of that, you are going to get a helmeted head. And of course, we haven't had the chain sword, so thank God we finally have chain swords. But again, that's something that's nice, and this gives you more incentive to buy the same set twice, because you could basically have some of them without the helmet and then some of them with the helmet, and basically double the amount of guys you have. And I love that kind of modularity, especially for infantry soldiers like this. Now, on the other side of things, don't forget that we are getting the Blood Angels Death Company intercessors. So these are just the Blood Angels version of the regular Primaris intercessors, but these ones are the Death Company, which have more lore to them. Basically, they're the ones that have already fallen to the bloodthirst that they have due to their lineage, but you'll have to do a little bit more research on your own if you want to hear more about that. But yeah, this looks absolutely badass, and it's basically the other faction, but just in black and red armor. But I love that. I love the red chainsword, the red weaponry. We have a couple of different changes, though this one is looking a little plain around the waist. That might not be the greatest thing, but still, just this overall camo is really nice. Now, as you guys can see in this photo, those guns look absolutely beautiful. They're basically, again, the exact same one as the regular Primaris intercessors, but painted red, which looks nice. And then, as you can tell to the left, the one with the shoulder pad, it's basically angel wings with a teardrop of blood, which is obviously really fucking badass. So, again, sigils, marks, everything to make these guys look just absolutely badass and accurate to the source material, which, again, I cannot stress enough. No one's done this before but Joy Toys. So, again, kudos to them for at least bringing that amount of accuracy. And of course, going in with the same motif from earlier, so the Blood Angels here are also going to come with unhelmeted heads, and they're going to look exactly like their Primarch Sanguinus, who's basically Caucasian with blonde hair, and here we have the exact same thing, Caucasian with blonde hair. And I really like seeing that. I really like seeing the fact that they could have recycled heads, but they didn't do that. They're going accurate with the source material and giving us, you know, figures that look very much so like the way they're supposed to. So I'm excited to see what the salamander is going to look like, because they're supposed to have basically, like, from my understanding, like chalk black skin. So it's going to be really cool to see what that looks like if they ever get around to that. But again, the fact that we're getting variations in the different head sculpts and the bodywork, and they're not very big differences, but all together they make up very different figures. And I really like that. So kudos to Joy Toy, and I really hope we end up seeing more things coming soon.